Coaches, I woke up this morning and I was looking at Twitter and I saw this tweet by Coach Sean Washington. It says, as a new first-time head coach who was just getting to know his kids, this sucks. Got me to thinking, I'm kind of in the same situation. How am I handling it? What could I do better? What am I doing bad? So I thought I would analyze it and create a video. Stay tuned. All right, coaches, welcome back to the 92 Meshgroup channel, your home on the internet for the air raid offense. This is Coach Coltharp coming to you this morning, and I thought a little bit about, the quarantine and what's going on, and a lot of stuff's on the media and the internet and Twitter and just, all over the place where people are talking about what's going to happen in the fall and all these other things. And, I've been dealing with recruiting, and there's so much other stuff going on right now that it made me want to kind of look back and reflect and kind of see where I'm at in this whole process. And I'm sure many of you guys are in the same way, doing the same things. And I'd love for you guys to comment on the video to let me know what you're doing so that maybe I can get some ideas or other guys can get some ideas about how to handle this situation that nobody really has ever had to been through, or nobody's ever really been through before. But hey, listen, I would love for you to subscribe to the channel. Make sure you click that bell so that when we go live, you guys get notifications. We've got a lot of great stuff coming up over the next couple of weeks. I don't want you to miss it. We're doing really well with subscribers. We're almost at 3,500. Our goal is to get to 5,000 by December. And I really appreciate you guys who have subscribed to the channel and all the other things that we've got going on. Don't forget our 92 Air Raid Academy, Squadron 53-3 Air Raid Academy is up and running over on the website, 92meshgroup.com. If you haven't joined that, you need to get access to our CoachTube courses and things like that with your Patreon donation. You can check that out over on the website. But hey, enough of all of that stuff. Let's jump in the video. All right, coaches, so you can see by the title of the video, we've called this one, how a new head coach is handling the quarantine, in the air raid offense. And I will tell you that, I had this great plan for when I was going to get this job. I was looking at some other jobs and some things. So I had already had like a portfolio together of how I wanted to do things. If once I showed up, we did that video series, the first 30 days. And part of that was me preparing myself for the fact that I knew in my heart that I was going to be a head football coach again this spring somewhere. And, I'm blessed to say that I was able to stay at Fairmont, which I really love. And I think I'm really excited about that job. But I knew that I was going to have an opportunity. So part of me doing that series, the first 30 days was to prepare myself and to get my thoughts together about how I wanted to handle things once I got my head coaching job again. I had done it 3 times before. So I'd look back at how I'd started those 3 jobs and wanted to really make sure that I had addressed some of those things that I thought were shortcomings in that. I will put a link to the video. I'll do a card for you guys up in the top. So if you didn't see the first 30 days of a head coach video, click that so you can kind of see where some of my ideas were on that deal. So I was ready into that plan. I had already reached out to some key members of our community, some guys who had been like on the chain crew for years and for whatever reason had kind of not come back to some of the stuff that was going on. I had reached out to those guys, had reached out to some guys in the community who had expressed some interest in helping with the program and stuff like that. So I had started making some connections with some of those people. Had started reaching out to some of the churches about getting over into some of the churches and being able to speak to some of their congregations and things about how we really want to help them, their help in helping us develop our young people in our small town and things like that. So we had started doing some things like that. I had already started analyzing the staff and the roster, looking at kids, and I was a little bit more of an advantage because I knew some of the kids. But I didn't stay on staff the entire last year. A lot of you guys may not know that, but I was only on staff for about a month, and then it was just I needed to step away for some personal reasons and things like that. But so I knew some of the kids. I had some of the kids in class, so I will say I'm at a little bit more of an advantage than some of you guys who maybe are starting from scratch. But I had started analyzing the staff. I knew some guys. I had made some moves, moved some guys from certain positions to other positions. I knew I had some guys who had some talent in maybe some areas that wasn't being utilized. Made some sacrifices and some choices to put guys in good places. And I think that's the hallmark of a really good head coach is you look at your guys and you put them where they can work the best for you. So, you got to put your ego to the side. And, every head football coach wants to be in the weight room and running that stuff. But I had a guy on my staff who has a master's in exercise science who was teaching 1 weightlifting class. So, instead of me taking 3 weightlifting classes, I gave him 3 weightlifting classes because I knew he was better at that than I was. So, I started analyzing the staff about where, guys would fit. I started looking at where some vacancies were, put out some feelers for interviewing guys and all that stuff. Same thing with the roster. So I was doing all these things, all things I talked about doing in the first 30 days of being a head coach. I started organizing the program for efficiency. We cleaned out the field house. We moved things around. We reorganized. We started counting. We didn't have the best inventories and things. And look, it's easy to have an inventory when you first come in, but after you're 3 years in, the inventory kind of goes by the wayside if you don't have an AD. So, that's not a knock on the guy that was there before me. It's just one of those things where I wanted to make sure I had a proper count of what I had so that I knew when I went asking for things that I wasn't asking for things that once I started cleaning things out, I would go find, oh man, I just ordered, 20 of these and here's a box full of 30 of them, so I wanted to make sure I knew what we had. So we started cleaning out equipment rooms and things like that. We were in the process of doing all of those things, going out to the field house shed and seeing what was out there, what we thought we would need, what we didn't need. So we were doing all of these things and I had already started recruiting. I was handling college stuff, trying to finish up the 2020 stuff, that the other staff had done, signing day had gone. We had a couple of kids who went past signing day, but who ended up going places. And then we had started recruiting the hallways. We went and found a kicker and guys who maybe had not wanted to play football before. We kind of used the excitement of a new head coach to go in and say, hey, look, why don't you guys give us a chance? And I really felt like we were making some headway in that situation. And then all of a sudden, bang, here comes COVID-19. COVID comes and I find myself like, okay, I have a lot of numbers for the kids, but nowhere near all of them. I had the senior guys, the guys that you kind of had circled the wagons around, like, you got to make sure you got to keep this guy, keep this guy, keep this guy, the guys that I knew from class and things like that. So I had some numbers, but not all the numbers that I needed. And, I had started a Twitter, had started a Google Classroom for guys, but, not all of them had been there, been in that. So that was kind of like, okay, that really wasn't going to be a great thing. And then all of a sudden, we heard this thing was coming, but we didn't know it was going to happen like it did. And then it was like, oh my goodness, bang, you're isolated. You can't come back. And we thought maybe we would go home for a couple of days, maybe come back. And then all of a sudden, bang, we're out of school until May 15th. And I'm 30 days into the process and I'm nowhere near, we hadn't really even had our spring, team interest meeting before spring practice and things like that. We don't get an official spring practice in North Carolina. We have skill development sessions and things like that. So we weren't going to be able to practice efficiently, because we have a lot of guys that play different sports and things like that. Baseball season had just kicked off. And I don't know how it is in your state, but in North Carolina, the first 10 days of a new spring, like spring and fall and winter, the first 10 days of those seasons, all other sports are dead until, like 10 days into that season. So, we were kind of in a dead period when all this stuff first started hit. So we couldn't do anything after school, and we kind of had done our calendars and all this other stuff. We were ready to start. And then bang, here we are, we're isolated. We don't have all the contact information we need. And at this point, football is not important. You're trying to make sure are your kids fed, all this other stuff. And the other thing is I live 45 minutes from my school. Both of my daughters in college and one of them commutes to the local college. So I didn't move closer to the community yet. That was something that I was doing this summer. So, I'm a 35-minute down ride 95 and then 5 minutes out, 5 minutes each way in the country to get to the school. So it's not like I can just jump in the car and ride down there real quickly, every day like that. So it's just, boom, that was a tough obstacle. And I know a lot of you guys have those obstacles too. You live 30, 45 minutes away from where you work and those kind of things. And some of you are like, man, 45 minutes, that's nothing. I mean, I had a buddy of mine lived in Charlotte. He lived 12 lights from his school and it took him 45 minutes to get to work. So I'm not complaining at all because I can, I pretty much don't even hit the brakes. I just put it in neutral and ride down 95 pretty much. But there were some other obstacles, the area that I serve is rural. I mean, very rural, very impoverished. I mean, I told a college coach the other day, he was recruiting one of our kids and I was like, look, you got to understand when this kid was in the 8th grade, his town was like swallowed up by a hurricane. And then when he was in the 10th grade, his town was swallowed up by a hurricane. The town had been flooded twice. And now here he is, rising between his 11th and 12th grade year, he's dealing with COVID. So, you talking about my kids have been through adversity. They've been through 2 hurricanes. Now they're going through this thing like that. So, this is, I guess for us, my kids, it's a little bit like, yeah, we're old hats at this, obstacle thing. So, and that part of it, I'm blessed. But, there's not a ton of Wi-Fi access for our kids. As teachers, we had to do 2 things. We had to come up with packets. or online stuff. So I got half of my class is doing online work. The other half is doing packets. I had one mom say, hey, does he have to do his packet and the online stuff? Like, no. If he's doing online, he's fine. If he's not doing online, he needs to turn the packet work in. And that's a whole nother, that's a 4-hour video about what's going on everywhere. Matter of fact, in the comments down below, tell me how your district is doing, schooling. What are you guys doing? I mean, we're not doing anything as far as live instruction. We're doing all, create videos and things like that. And it's just kind of interesting because of, like I said, most of our kids don't have Wi-Fi and stuff like that. We are able to check out computers to our kids. We're blessed to be able to do that, but that's kind of hard. And then the other kind of obstacle that we had is they actually had shut down one of the schools. There was a smaller high school that was kind of our natural rival that had about 400 kids in it. And because of the hurricanes, we had lost so many kids in the county that the county decided to shut that school down and combine it with ours. And so we were still in the first year of that process. And, we're still trying to reach out to that other community and realize, what their niches are and things like that. And how every community is different. So trying to find out who the key players in that other community was something that we were starting to work on. I know I was, I had met with some of the guys teachers who were from that school, who had come to our school just to kind of figure out, who we needed to talk to and things like that. And so, we had all of these obstacles and I was just like, wow, what are we doing? So I just said, we tried to develop a strategic plan, based on experience and other things. And so we came up with, hey, facilities, I talked to some of the local guys down there. There's a local farmer that lives down the street. He went down and sprayed the field for me, just got out on his tractor, because you had weed and feed and all that good stuff that we do this time of year. He went out there and sprayed the field. The baseball coaches are out there, still taking care of baseball fields and things like that. So I had one of the custodians actually say, yo, coach, don't worry about coming down. We'll cut the grass for you this time. I was like, great. So, they cut the field. So, luckily we're not in super grass season where it's just growing like crazy right now. But, we still have to make sure the facilities are taken care of, because if you don't go down there and check on your facilities and things like that, you come back and, you're dealing with, Jumanji or whatever. And it's crazy. And we don't want to do that. So we had to develop a plan for that. I really looked at this as an opportunity to develop player leadership. I talk to, 4 or 5, 6 guys a day. It's usually one or two of the same guys, and then it's 3 or 4 different guys. And I ask them how they're doing. Do they need anything? Something like that. And then my first question to them is, hey, who have you talked to? And so what they're doing is you find out that they're reaching out to certain people. And you're also able to identify the cliques on your team, like who's tight with each other and who's not. And then what I found is my rising seniors, who I thought one of the issues with our rising senior group was going to be kind of a leadership thing. I mean, really talented, but not, I don't even know the best way to say it. I just think that there was some selfishness in that group, and I've seen that kind of dissipate in this situation. So I'm really excited about that, because I've got guys who've said, yo, coach, man, we out here grinding. I mean, they're sending me FaceTime videos of 3 or 4 of them at one of the boys' houses, working out and doing things like that and stuff. So, that's real cool that they're kind of bonding with each other. And so I looked at that as a really positive situation. The text chains are good. These guys are putting videos of themselves working out on Twitter, which I think is really awesome. I mean, so if you're not doing that, I've had a couple of Zoom meetings with my coaches. We had like a staff meeting just to make sure everybody was good, see what was going on and stuff like that. I'm in the process of developing videos, because we are putting in a new offense. I retained the defensive coordinator, so defense is going to stay exactly the same as it was last year, but the offense is going to shift. Obviously, we're gonna go full bore air raid from more of the 20 personnel, RPO offense that they did last year. And so, putting the new offense in, I've developed some videos for that. We have a QB school. If you haven't got the list to our QB school, look down in the description. You can click that out and see the things that we put in our QB school. So, I'm making videos just for my quarterbacks. They're learning how to put the offense in, not just like what you get if you bought Foundations of the Air Raid over on CoachTube or something like that, where I go up there and teach you the offense. But I'm actually talking to them as in we're in a room, and this is the signal for this. This is what I want you to do, and this is why I want you to tag this and that kind of stuff. So, I'm actually starting to develop videos for them to be able to watch that, because I don't know when we'll be able to get back together. So really excited about, doing those kind of things. And then recruiting, I'm getting calls. I'm lucky. I got an outside linebacker. There's a couple of Division I offers, and so I'm dealing with that part of it. But then there's also this new exemption for 2020, and I had a couple of kids who from last year's team who were really good players. They just didn't have test scores, and so now with that exemption, I'm trying. I was in contact with my principal and my data manager this weekend about getting some transcripts and stuff, and I'm gonna try to see if I can't help place a couple of those guys who didn't have test scores at some places that may have some openings for them. So that's something else that I had to add to the strategic plan. And so what that tells you is that plan is kind of evolving, and so like I said in the comments, other than these things, is anybody doing anything like this different? I mean, I'd love to have Zoom meetings with my entire team and stuff like that, but I just don't know what we would be able to do unless they're just on their phones. And I'm the type of person, I don't meet unless there's a reason to meet. I don't want to just, I'd rather check in on them one-on-one and have a nice conversation with them. They pull them together as a group and just talk to them as a group and stuff like that, because I like how they have decided to check on each other, and they're becoming tighter with this. And if you saw my reply to Coach Washington's tweet, I just talked about, hey, look, man, this is a great chance for you to show your kids, to get to know them outside of football. You're not focusing on that kid that you need to make sure is doing the right things because he's the best player on the team, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And look, we've all done that. There are guys that kind of slide through that gap or whatever, because football becomes an obstacle, because there's guys who are high maintenance, just like in life, there are people who are high maintenance in your life and there are other people who aren't. And so, football's not an obstacle right now. So you're able to really check on all your kids, get to know your kids, whether it's a star or a freshman. I had a freshman, rising sophomore, text me yesterday, hey coach, when we start in fall practice? And I'm like, buddy, look, man, I couldn't tell you what we're doing right now. I said, but hey, shoot me your text message, your cell number, so that I can keep in touch with you, because, he's a good kid and all that stuff, but I wanted to get to know him a little bit better, and he had messaged me on Twitter, because he follows me on Twitter, which was really cool. We get to find out what our real situations for our kids are. Did you really know? I mean, we assumed, I assumed some kids' situations was worse than it was, and I assumed a couple of kids' situations that better than it was. But through COVID, I've been able to find out kind of more about our kids and get to know them on a different level. So this has been a blessing in disguise for sure. And then you have a chance to be the genuine you. Kids gonna find out, look, when you talk to him, are you calling him and are you talking to him about his weightlifting and things like that, or are you generally checking on him? I mean, a lot of guys, they kind of fake the funk, and I can tell you right now, man, kids can see a fraud a mile away. So, when I talk to the kids, hey man, you good? What's good? You need anything? Blah blah blah. Hey coach, I got a job. Oh yeah, where you working at? Well, I'm working at Domino's Pizza now. All right, that's cool, man. Because you just find out, talk to these kids, find out, just make sure they're okay. And usually all it takes is a text message. Matter of fact, I got a text last night from a kid, and the funny thing was he texted me right when I was texting him. And I was like, yo, man, your ears must have been burning, because I was literally fixing to text you. And, we LOL'd each other, and, he was asking me some stuff about the playbook and things like that. So, this can be a blessing in disguise, man. I don't know, maybe I'm just in that glass half full attitude, and I'm a new coach and things like that. But, as a new coach, sometimes you don't get to learn, get to know your kids so much, because you're so busy in that first 30-day process that's in that video, doing all of these things football-wise, and you're worried about offense and defense and special teams and all this other stuff. But really, this is kind of taking football out of the equation, and you're able to really get to know your kids. And I think, this fall, and every college coach I've talked about, we think this fall when football comes back, this is going to be one of the best football seasons ever, because guys are going to be hungry. They may not be as fast and strong as they can be, but you know what? Everybody's dealing with that right now. Everybody's dealing with the same problem now. If this was an isolated incident where, your county was shut down and everybody else around your state was able to work, then I think this is a time to cry. But everybody's dealing with the same things you are, and this is a blessing in disguise, and your kids will know that you care. And look, football coaching is what we do. Okay, it is what we do, but caring for, nurturing, and leading young men is what we are. So even if you stop being a football coach today, developing young people should be your legacy. So hopefully this kind of helps you guys out, lets you see what I'm doing, and during this quarantine, man, if there's something cool that you're doing or something different, or if you have a question about some of the stuff that I'm doing, man, hit me up in the comments down below. Like I said, man, if you haven't checked out Squadron 53.3 Academy, check that out, man. That's a great deal. I just released the defensive video bundle. If you haven't seen that, check that out as well. Please, hey, like and subscribe to the video if you would, man. It helps the channel grow. Hit that bell so you know when we go live. And as always, spin it to win.